Hello my fellow weirdos, it's your gal Anna Reads Horror here. Welcome back, or welcome to my channel. It's been a hot minute, I put out a series of videos and then I just got distracted, what can I say? But I am back with my May reading wrap up. And let me tell you, it was a good month. So grab your brew, grab your coffee, grab your Monster, whatever you're drinking, because if you are into horror and you want some Rex, I've got some. Now, yeah, so I must apologise. I simply, to tell you the honest truth, my room was a complete mess. And I'm kind of working around setting up a proper space to film these videos. And I'm not working with a lot of space. I'm at my sister's house. So I've got a room with my boyfriend, and he is very much having to put up with me having about 10 bookshelves in here. And along with that, I was just so busy with work, couldn't clear everything away. So I couldn't set up a video, I couldn't be bothered, had a week off work, and I'm back. So I promise I will be back with some more videos because I want to talk to you all. So yeah, I'm here with my May reading wrap up. I read 11 books in total, and actually only 4 of those were physical books. So let's get into it. Now, I did say this was a good month, however, I did have 1 2-star book, and I also had 1 book that I couldn't rate. Honestly, to this day, still can't think about what I would rate it, and that's simply because of the content. So you know what, let's go through those books first. So the one that I rated 2 stars, this might offend some people, but honestly I just couldn't get on with it, and that was Gillian Flynn, Sharp Objects. Now, I have seen the TV show of this, but this was a while back. I think whenever it came out, was it like 2016, 2015, something like that? So I was aware of the storyline, but my memory is quite bad, so I'd forgotten what happened at the end. This is essentially about a woman who goes back to her hometown after discovering there's a series of kidnappings for young girls. Basically, she's a reporter and she wants to find out more. She's sent back to her hometown basically, to find out more, to try and delve deeper into this case. So the problem I had with this book was it was mainly the main character. In fact, it was all the characters. They were just insufferable, and usually I am one for an insufferable character when it's done well. However, I don't think this was the author's intention. I'm not sure if it was, but to me it came across like all the characters were like this, and it just seemed a bit like an echo chamber of white Christian women. And that probably was the intention, but I couldn't deal with it. They were talking about, I don't even know if I can say this word on YouTube. They were talking about what shall I say, smashtamation. I'm making myself laugh here, but they were talking about that so much, and I'm just like, can we get to the story here? It had a lot of Catholic guilt in here, which I think was probably the author's intention with this book. However, yeah, I just could not get on with it. The characters were horrible. I hated all of them. And to be honest, by the end, I just wanted it to be over. Like the ending, once I'd read the ending, I realised, yeah, I kind of remembered the storyline from the film, from the TV show, sorry. But yeah, this was just, yeah, this is going in the bin. I'm not gonna lie, guys, I can't deal with this book. I only kept this for my wrap-ups, and then yeah, there's probably a reason why it was on sale. But But yeah, if you like this book, I would love to know why. Don't get me wrong, I'm not one of these people that will shit on you for your opinion. I love a discussion. I love to know why, what you saw in the book that I didn't like, and vice versa. We're all different. We all like different things, but yeah, this was not for me. And to be honest, looking back, 2 stars is probably too generous for this book. Which is saying something, because I don't rate a lot of books as 2 stars. Like, I would usually just DNF a book, and I don't know why I didn't with this. Yeah, not for me. Anyway, let's move on. In fact, let's move on to to the other book that I don't know how to rate. So the next book, I have to say, I read a hell of a lot of extreme books. I'm into extreme horror, splatterpunk. If you don't know what that is, look it up. It's basically very extreme content in a book. But this book, honestly, shocked me. It pushed me to my limits. And to say that I don't really have many triggers, yeah, this book, I honestly, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. That is Into the Wolf's Den by John Athan. Now, I've heard about this author before, and I've heard that he's read I've heard that he's written some very extreme books. One of them being The Groomer, which you might be more familiar with. I feel like that's his most popular book. And to be fair, it's kind of like a similar sort of theme to this book. I don't really want to talk about it too much, if I'm being honest, but this is essentially about 2 girls that get kidnapped, and we go on a journey of the details of that. They get kidnapped into this like ring of these guys. They get stuck into this house of atrocities, where there's other young females in there as well. So there's 2 siblings. One of them is older. I think one of them's about, I want to say like 12. And the other one is about 7. And it is honestly the most horrible thing that I've ever read. To be fair, I don't know why I didn't DNF it, because I was just like, I understand that the author, what the author was trying to do here, because this is very much a real life issue, and yeah, it's horrible. But for me, I just think I draw the line, obviously, there. I have read content where there's a lot of kids getting unalived, but I feel like it's done in a way that's more fictional. Like, obviously, this is fictional, but because some things that are ridiculous, like Terrifier or Playground by Aaron Beauregard, that's obviously meant to be a bit of fun. This is kind of going into real life issues, and I just think that I just don't want to go there when I read horror books. Like, it's just something that I just don't want to read. Like, I've read a lot of content, there's this type of content, but it's the main protagonist, the main characters are adults, and this for me just was not it. I can't recommend it. What I will say is, if you are thinking about reading it, just check the trigger warnings before. But it's not often that I'm trying to like advise people not to read a book, but this for me just was, it was too much. So yeah, that's why I can't rate it. And to be fair, looking back, I don't know why I didn't DNF it, because I just didn't have, like, I just didn't want to read it. And I understand it's like a lot of extreme horror gets scrutinized because a lot of people, and a lot of people that don't like the genre, which fair enough, it's a very niche genre. A lot of people say, oh yeah, I don't know how you can read that, it's awful, like there must be something wrong with these authors. I honestly, I hate that. But these authors are only uncovering actual true things that are happening around this world, and like, this to me was just so it felt too real for me to me for me to read it and for me to, I don't know, not enjoy it, but you know what I mean? Like it's definitely one that challenged me. I have read, like I say, very extreme stuff, but yeah, this for me was not it. Let me know if you've read John Nathan though. I've heard a lot of his other books are good. Like I say, The Groomer is meant to be a similar sort of thing to Into the Wolf's Den, but then I know he's done like a lot more like slashers. Like it's not like I wouldn't read the author again. Ice cream van. But yeah, I would definitely read the author again. It's just the nature of the content. I just don't want to read it. I'm just over it. Like I really don't want to read it. Like it puts me in a bad space, which is fair enough, I think. So yeah, moving on. Moving on to the ones that I rated higher. Let's talk about this book. Let's talk about Reservoir Bitches. And I don't want to butcher this author's name. But Delilah Della said, honestly, my Spanish, I don't speak Spanish. This is a debut of interconnected stories. Now, I will just preface this by saying this isn't classed as a horror. It's like, I would class it as a dark literary short story collection. However, a lot of my mutuals in the horror space have read this and enjoyed this, including myself. So I do think that if you are into horror, you would enjoy this. So yeah, like I say, it's interconnected stories and it's about the femicide in Mexico, which again is obviously a very real subject. A very real dark subject at the minute. If you don't know, it's a very, very pressing issue at the minute, like it has been for years. A lot of females in Mexico are just not safe. What this author has done, I don't know if I said if it was a debut, because after I read this, I rated it 4.5. After I read this, I was like, I need to read more by this author because the tone of this book was so witty. It was, honestly, I could have read this in one sitting. It was one of those books that was so easy to read, so good to read. Given the nature of the subject as well, I would have thought that I would have wanted to take it slow with this book, but I just didn't want to put it down because the tone of voice was brilliant. Like it was so humorous. There was a lot of dialect in this book that if you're not familiar with Mexico, like myself, there's a lot of words that I didn't know what they meant, like a lot of slang that's used. But I just really wanted, I just wanted to carry on reading it. So the stories kind of follow different women around Mexico, and there's some supernatural elements in this book, but then there's some that aren't supernatural. There's some that are associated with gangs. There is a woman getting kidnapped. There is basically a lot of the women are under threat for men for very real issues. But the way that this author puts this across is done so well. Like, honestly, I challenge you to read this book and not like it because it is done so well. And then the end story, honestly, is so hard hitting. That is when you think, wow, bam, this is a collection of stories. The first story is quite light-hearted in terms of the rest of the other stories, even though it's still very dark. I read the first story and I was like, yeah, this is for me. And then, yeah, the last story just wraps it up. I know that I'm probably not being that clear with this, but I do think it's one of those books that the little you know about going in, the better. And I just urge you to read it. I know some people might be like, oh, I don't like short stories. But I think with the thing with interconnecting stories, it's good because you get to pick up. It's like you read a story further down the line and you're like, oh yeah, that connects to the other one. I'm very much here for an interconnecting short story. Just pick it up. Just pick it up. There's probably about one or two stories out of the whole collection which I thought wasn't necessary, and usually let's see how many stories there actually are in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So there's 13 stories in here, and there's probably about 2 that I would say are not brilliant, which for a 13 story collection is pretty fucking good, you know what I mean? Usually I'll read a short story collection, I'll be like, about half and half. Anyway, I'm rambling. Just go read this book, honestly, and let me know what you think. I know a lot of you probably have read this book. Let me know. Let me know. So the next book I got was by a UK indie author. They sent me this, and it is called The Moth of the Marsh by Thomas Hutt Dixon. Now, thank you so much to the author for sending me this. I very much appreciate when I get sent books, especially by indie authors that I've not really heard of. Like, this is why I read books, to be fair. Like, indie horror has such a special place in my heart because, honestly, I found some of the best stories by reading indie horror. I know not all of the stories. Some people might be like, oh, I prefer books that are published by, known publishers. But I think especially in the horror space, there's so many voices that you can pick up on and so many great stories that you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't read indie horror. Having said that, this book was so good. This follows a group of friends in the UK. They are going to their prom. Well, they're not going to their prom. They decide to ditch their prom and go to the woods for like one last hurrah, and camp, basically. However, this follows 2 timelines. This follows present day timeline, so 2024, and then it's flashback to 2010. So the group of friends are in the 2010 story. The 2024 story is being told in the same location that the 2010 friends went to, so the woods. So it's a story within a story. So it's got that campfire element. It's also, as you could probably guess by the cover, a creature feature. This was a lot of fun. And it had, surprisingly, quite a lot of gore in this. I honestly think this would be great for like a palate cleanser. I believe it's on Kindle Unlimited, so you might have to double check that, but I believe it is on Kindle Unlimited. You can definitely read it in one sitting, and it has Steps references in it, like the band Steps. It has queer rep. It's just a fun horror. It's a fun time. If you want like a classic woods, group of friends go to the woods, campfire story, definitely check this one out. Yeah, I had a fun time with it. I would definitely recommend. So give it a go. The next book that I wanted to talk about is David Sodergren's new book, which is, I read on Kindle. I joined his Patreon because I watched one of my friends on the other app, I don't know if I can say the other app, but on the Clock app, do a live with him, and honestly, he mentioned his Patreon and I didn't even realise he had a Patreon, and I've joined it, and basically he goes into a lot of depth into the way he writes, his inspiration, his favourite films, his favourite books. So it's a great time over there, and you, as a Patreon member, get access to all of his books. Basically, sends them to you by email. I know a lot of them are on Kindle Unlimited, but it's just nice because you get to read them before anyone else. So his latest book, Death Spell, this is said to be one of his most extreme books. However, his other author name is Carl John Lee. If you have read Carl John Lee before, you know that those books are very extreme. So would I say Death Spell is more extreme than those? No. But would I say it's more extreme than, like his other works under David Sodergren? Yes. Unless you've read Satan's Burnouts Must Die, I would say it's on the same level as that. So Death Spell is a fun time. It's about a group of rich people, essentially. We follow this guy Ron as he is the CEO of this like global empire. I don't even know, to be fair, but he's like just very rich. 25 years prior, he made this pact on an island, and is essentially coming back to haunt him. He has a daughter, and he wants to do better by his daughter. And yeah, so they go back and try and do this other sort of spell. Now, this was fun. This was very gory, and it had some great elements in it. I rated it 3.5. For me, the characters, couldn't get on board with them. I am not really one for... I mean, I do like when there's rich people drama, but this for me just... Yeah, I feel like rich people, like I'd rather follow a group of rich teenagers that are not adults, because at least then you think, well, they're not adults yet. Maybe they'll grow up and get some sense. But yeah, this for me just wasn't it. I just didn't like the characters. I didn't really care about any of the characters. David Sodergren is such a great author, and all his books are different. All his books follow different people, different characters, different sort of perspectives. And I feel like that's his strength. So for me, like, the fact that he can write these atrocious people is great, but I just didn't care. I just didn't care for them. He's written some far greater characters, in my opinion. For example, you've got Becky in Rotten Tommy. Loved her. Obviously, my favourite character is Muriel from The Heart, an older lady. I love an older female character. But honestly, that book is so good. I just think he's got better books out there than Deathspell. And I think he was mainly focusing on the gore element, and that was great, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I think that he's got better books, and he's written better characters. Would I still recommend it? Yeah, because a lot of people are reading this and loving it, and I did enjoy it, don't get me wrong. I didn't hate it. And yeah, that's completely fair, I guess. Not much more to say on that book. So yeah, moving on. The next book that I read was an ARC. It's called Breathe In, Bleed Out by Brian Macaulay. Now, this was a galley. I got this on NetGalley. And I believe this is out, I want to say in September, I think. Anyway, it's out later this year. So this is a slasher, and this follows... It's a slasher, but a little bit of a slasher with a difference, because it's a slasher in a health resort, which I haven't read much of. Well, not a health resort, it's a wellness retreat. I think it's the same thing. Basically, we follow our main character, Hannah, who is harbouring a lot of guilt from her partner dying. And she gets convinced by her friends or a couple of people to go to this wellness resort. And one by one, slowly the people that she's with start to go missing. So it's kind of like a slasher, but it's also like a whodunit situation, because there is like a little bit of mystery to who the person is that is unaliving all these people, essentially. And we also get to learn about Hannah's boyfriend's death, and how that connects to the story. So it's got that mystery element to it. What I liked about this, there was a lot of commentary on consumerism. I think there was some political commentary in this as well. And yeah, it was a fun time to read in general. Like, I liked the character of Hannah. However, Hannah was not a perfect person by any stretch. But yeah, this is what I liked about it, because it wasn't about a perfect person. Like, it was about a realistic person. What I didn't like is Hannah is a doctor, and it didn't really go into those elements for me enough. And that could have been explored a little bit more. What I rated this 3.75 again because it was an enjoyable read and I would recommend it. But for me, it didn't have that extra thing that I've not read before, if that makes sense. Like it was fine, it was great, it was fun. But for me, I just wanted something a little bit extra to it. And I wanted some more background with Hannah's character. But other than that, I did enjoy this book and I would recommend it. And the cover is sick. Definitely whoever did the cover art for this, gorgeous. So yeah, I've read Brian Macaulay before. I've read The Candy Cane Kills, the first book. I know he's done 2 or possibly 3. That book was a lot of fun. I definitely recommend that for Christmas time if you're looking for like a Christmas horror book. But yeah, I liked that one more than I liked this one. But I would definitely read from this author again. I think he's very talented. For me, like I could have done with a little bit more. So the next book I read was another David Sodergren. What can I say? I'm on my David Sodergren hype at the minute. And that was the first book, I believe, that he written. And this was like when he started his career in like 2018. The Forgotten Island. Now, I believe this is his longest book to date. And I flew through this. Again, I think I rated it 3.75. For me, reading this book compared to some of his newer works, you can definitely tell, for me, you can definitely tell his writing has improved. I think his writing, or maybe his editing, because there were some parts of this book where I thought it could have been cut out. But in general, I really enjoyed this book. We follow the characters, Anna, I believe the main character's called, and her sister and her sister's boyfriend as they go to Thailand. Her and her sister haven't really been getting on that well, and they've had a bit of like family history, a bit of issues. But yeah, Anna agrees to go because she is struggling at the minute and she wants to repair her relationship with her sister, basically. The beginning parts of this book was so compelling and I really wanted to read more, and I think that's because of the characters, and the character dynamic was done really well. However, when we get to the middle of the book, we don't get that dynamic anymore, without going into spoilers. So I think for me, that's when I start to drift off a little bit. The character dialogue and the character dynamic was great at the beginning, and then we get to a point where the characters go to a full moon party. Obviously it's Thailand, and that's what you do. And they go missing, they get split up, and part of the reason for that is this mysterious island, and it's got a lot of history, this island. Not a lot of great history, actually a lot of supernatural history, which the residents of Thailand know very much about and they've heard about, and they stay away from there for a reason. So yeah, when we get to the middle of the book, we get a lot of this island, and there is a lot of gore in this. It's fairly extreme. There are some very graphic unalivings. And yeah, if you are not a fan of spiders, there's definitely some creepy moments with spiders. I hate spiders. That's like, yeah, spiders and heights are like probably my 2 most feared things, and that and flying in an airplane. But yeah, the spiders were done very well. I just think towards the middle and the end there could have been some parts that would have cut down this book and made it a little bit more fast-paced. Definitely recommend this book, but was it my favourite by him? No. But yeah, this just goes to show though how an author can improve their work, and he already is writing The Forgotten Island, his first book. Like, are you messing? That is incredible. But yeah, my fave Sodergren today is definitely The Whore. A lot of people love that book, and for good reason. So I am slowly but surely working my way through all of David Sodergren's books. And hopefully by the end of this year, I will have read all of his books. I think I don't know how many left I've got, to be fair, but I've probably got at least 4 or 5 to read. I ordered Night Shoot the other day, so that's probably going to be my next one. And I really want to read Maggie's Grave because I've heard that one is really popular too. So yeah. Moving on. So I read a very short story. This only took me like an hour, I think. I think it's less than 100 pages. And that was The Blanks by Grady Hendrix. Now, I had the pleasure of meeting Grady Hendrix last month, I think it was. He came to the UK and he did an event in Liverpool. I'll insert a picture here because I'm just going to tell anybody about this. And he was talking about his new book, Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. But yeah, I believe I've read all of Grady Hendrix's books now, except for, I would say, he's probably done a lot of short stories that I need to read. This is one of the short stories, but he's done loads of short stories and stuff in anthologies. But yeah, his main novels, I've read them all, so let me know if you want a ranking video. But his new story, The Blanks, this is part of a series where other authors have also written books. I think one of them includes Stephen Graham Jones. Another one maybe is, you know what, I don't even want to say, but it's called the Shivers Collection. So if you look that up, you'll be able to see what authors have done. This is the only one I've read of the collection. And this is essentially about a family that go to this island. They go to this island like every summer, and it's a great place for like their kids to play. But this island has a secret, and you basically have to follow the rules of this island every summer. And one of the summers, the little kid of this family gets into sort of this situation, and yeah, it just all unfolds. I really don't want to say much more than that because obviously it's a very short story, but this is just a very great, creepy, fun story. It's done so well, and I highly recommend it. I rate it 4 stars. And although it follows tropes that are like, you know, we've seen the island, we've seen the curse, we've seen secrets before, the way it was written was so intriguing, and yeah, the way the family dynamic was done was very good. So I would recommend it. And I listened to this one actually on audiobook, and it was a great listen. I'm probably going to listen to all the others on audiobook as well. So I will keep you updated and let you know if I go through the whole of this collection. But yeah, it's sometimes you just want a palate cleanser, or for me anyway, I read a lot of heavy books or long books, and once you've read one of those, sometimes you just think you want to read something, but you want to read something that's a bit more, I don't know, not light-hearted, but a little bit more fun, easier to digest, and that is definitely this book, so definitely recommend for that. Now, the next book, a fellow loved extreme horror author, I read Carnage on, is it 84th Street? I think so, by Judith Sonnet. Judith Sonnet is an extreme horror author, although they've written some less extreme books, I would say. But yeah, this is definitely in the extreme horror subgenre. And this was a fun time. Well, I say a fun time, it's about a woman getting kidnapped. But it was fun. It was a great time. It was a great conclusion, shall we say. Basically, there is some very extreme scenes in this, and it has a crime element in it because she gets kidnapped essentially by some gangsters. I do like when those subgenres combine. I love splatterpunk and extreme horror, but I also like crime. So yeah, it was done well. If I was to compare it to another book, I would probably compare it to either Yellow by Aaron Beauregard or The City by S.C. Mendes. If you've read any of those books, then you will enjoy this one. If you've not read Judith Sonnet before, she is most famous for what's it called now? The one with the car. You're gonna die here, is it? I'll put it on screen anyway. But she's most famous for that book. Now that book was something else. Again, that's one of those that I probably wouldn't recommend, because of the nature of the content. But when I read that book, I just remember my adrenaline was so high. Like, I just felt nervous reading that book, and I got like that thrill from reading it. And this book is similar in that sense. Like, it's just so action packed. Like, her writing is incredible. The way that she writes is great. There's great gore, it's great pacing. And if you are into extreme horror and you've not read any Judith Sonnet yet, you need to give your head a wobble, because she's so good. Very, very, very good. She has done books that are less extreme as well, so she's, in fairness, a great all-rounder. I haven't read actually that many books by her, so yeah, maybe I need to give my own head a wobble. She's got like all sorts of different characters, all sorts of different scenes, and all sorts of different tropes within her books. So yeah, definitely check her out if you haven't already. Let me know if you have read any of her books that I haven't mentioned, and which ones I should read next, because I really do need to read more of her work. Now, moving on, I've got 2 books left to speak about, and both of these books are incredible. I have 3 favourites, and these are 2 of those. And the other one was Reservoir Bitches. So let's get into the first one, which was Shoot Me in the Face on a Beautiful Day. What a title that is. This book is by Emma E. Murray, and this is another arc that's out this year. However, I have read her other books, which you need to read. This comes out, I think it's in August or July, so not too long to wait. And this is pure trauma. If you are not familiar with Emma E. Murray, her books I would describe as quite depressing, but great, like full-on trauma, and very flawed characters, and very, very flawed, but very deservedly flawed characters. She really delves into these deep issues and these deep traumas that people suffer day in, day out, and she really captures that so well. That's sort of like the ongoing theme that I've noticed in her books. This is the 3rd book that I've read by her, and I believe she's only got one other short story collection, so she's relatively a new author. So we really need to hype her up, guys, because these books. But yeah, I will say I wouldn't class them as extreme horror. I would class them more as like a transgressive sort of vibe. So yeah, I would say like Chandler Morrison, if you've read any of Chandler Morrison's books, except Dead Inside. That's a completely different situation. But yeah, her books are very trauma-inducing. You're probably thinking, stop rambling, Anna, get to the point. So we follow Birdie, who is a very flawed character. She has done things in her life which has meant she's kind of self-destructing. She does things now which follows like a self-destructive pattern. She got with a guy about 2 years ago, maybe, in a bar, and he is not a good guy, guys. He's not a good guy. He's in fact a very terrible guy. he abuses her, but the way that this character justifies this is so fascinating, because it really goes into like domestic abuse and violence. I have never been in that situation, but the way that this character is explored and the way that this subject is explored is done so well. There are so many triggers in this book, like so many, and I can understand why you wouldn't want to read this book. It won't be for everyone. If you just want a real in-depth look about somebody that is going through something and using self-destructive patterns to go through it, but also on the other side of that, you really get to experience what it would be like to be in this situation, and sort of the mental gymnastics that you have in your own head trying to justify this other person's behaviour and why you think it's acceptable. Then yeah, read this book. It covers a lot. Also, there's like another subplot of this which is really interesting, which involves exploring other victims. There is a serial unaliver on the case in the picture, so we really get to experience that too, and how it relates to Birdie and her relationship. And that's all I'm really going to say. What I would say is don't read the blurb for this on Goodreads, because I read the blurb beforehand and I thought it kind of went into too much detail about what the book is about. And I think you just have to experience it. So yeah, definitely recommend this book. I rated it 4.5. Her other book, Crushing Snails, absolutely blew me out the water, if that's a saying. I rated it 5 stars, and I definitely recommend, although I would say that one is more, it covers more extreme, it has more extreme content in there, relating to like children and animals. So yeah, definitely check the trigger warnings. However, that book absolutely will stand out as one of my favourites of the year. I just keep thinking about it. It's done so well, guys, so well. And this one, Shoot Me in the Face on a Beautiful Day, again, amazing. Her other book, she did a novelette called The Devil, and I really loved that as well. I rated it 4.5. So yeah, I am working my way through her book. She's only got one short story collection that I need to read, and I think she's in a few anthologies as well that I've got hold of. Definitely keep an eye on this author. She is extremely talented, and I've heard she's at StokerCon at the minute, which if you went to, or if you're going to StokerCon, I don't know when I'm going to upload this video, it's probably going to be after StokerCon, but I am so jealous. That is my actual dream. Here in the UK could never. We have some horror con, like we have horror cons obviously, but like horror book cons we don't really have as many of. I know there's an indie one coming up which I really want to go to in September. I think it's called like Indie Horror Chapter. But yeah, in terms of like, yeah, this kind of scale, we could never. And it is my ultimate dream to one day go to a horror book con in the US. One day, guys. Obviously there's a lot of issues over there at the minute, which I'm not going to get into, but I think that's probably one of the reasons why, well, that and money, obviously I don't have thousands and thousands of pounds what it would cost to go over there. But yeah, I think there's a lot of issues with people travelling over there at the minute, and just in general. So yeah, one day, guys, one day. So the last book I'm going to talk about, oh my god, it deserves a drum roll. I'm not going to do that. So this book is actually not even a full-on horror book. It's like more of a horror fantasy hybrid. That is The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. Now, let's take a moment for this cover. This is the Waterstones special edition, and it is signed. Let me show you the inside as well, because this is absolutely stunning. So we have the naked hardback that says, "The worst monsters make the best allies." That's a great quote from the book. And the red foiling, and the end papers, guys, has the characters on. Like, how cute is that? I also, this one, don't know if I can show that. But yeah, it's yeah, I've got it signed. Joe Abercrombie. Now, speaking of author events, he actually made he did a tour in the UK, which I'm kind of kicking myself for not going to now. He didn't come to my city. He was, yeah, I think he went to Birmingham. That was like the closest one to me. And I very much regret not going. I'm not going to lie. This is my first Joe Abercrombie. Sorry, I'll hold the book up. My first Joe Abercrombie. I have heard a lot about him before, and I've read about the First Law series that he did, his most famous series. And he's described as like a grimdark fantasy author. I haven't read Game of Thrones, but I've always wanted to read it, and grimdark is very much my vibe because it is quite violent. Obviously it's dark, it's set in the medieval times. What's not to like about it, really? So going into this one, I thought I would try it because this is the first book in a series. I think it's going to be, I don't know if it's going to be a trilogy, but I definitely know that he's writing more of these books. And it was described as like horror as well, so I just thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a try. I'm so glad that I did, because this was outstanding. I absolutely had the best time reading this book. I was a little bit intimidated because of the length of it. I think it's like 500 pages or something, which there's not a lot of, like, I do read some long books, but yeah, I'm very picky with them, because obviously if you get stuck in a 500-page book of characters you don't like, then you can have an issue. But let me tell you, the characters in this were absolutely brilliant. We have Sunny, who's an elf, an invisible elf. We have Vigor, who's a very horny werewolf, direwolf, I think. And then we have Brother Diaz, who is a monk. Honestly, you've got a whole host of characters in this, and it did not disappoint. We follow like an expedition type plot. Essentially, we start with Brother Diaz, who has been summoned. He's basically been set on this mission to go to the sacred city with this bunch of people, these bunch of outcasts who are being forced to go and achieve this mission. So these characters are very much flawed. They're like not the best people. However, how this explores relationships and their backgrounds, they're from all different sorts of backgrounds, all different sorts of experiences, and some, essentially at its heart, this is about different people and their life experiences. So although the plot is kind of like a classic trope, you would say, is in fantasy, it just shows that a classic trope can just be done so well. And I immediately fell in love with J. Abercrombie's writing style. He is just an expert. Like, there's no other way of putting it. Some of the chapters in this, one of my favourite chapters was called Loophole, and it was just so funny. Like, this is a book that doesn't take itself too seriously. It has obviously all sorts of characters in here, all sorts of life experiences. It has a lot of horror in here. There's a lot of like scenes where they go to on the ship, for example, and there's all sorts of creatures on there, and they have like a couple of battle scenes. And then the more serious moments, the more tender moments. Honestly, this book has it all. If you are a horror fan, I definitely recommend it. And I do think that, yeah, I will be reading more Abercrombie because this was just sensational. I've heard from other people that they preferred the first Law trilogy as well. So, guys, I've got to read it. I've heard the first book maybe is a little bit more slower paced, but then it gets into like the whole world. But yeah, honestly recommend this. It was so funny. Vigor is probably my favourite character ever. Just I was howling, pardon the pun, because Vigor's a werewolf. But yeah, I was howling at some of the lines that she was coming out with, especially Brother Diaz as well, the monk. And there was honestly all of these characters were just so funny. And yeah, definitely recommend it. If you like, I'm thinking of like some horror books that are kind of like similar. If you like Jeff Strand, then you might like this book. Jeff Strand, Demonic, I'm thinking of. It kind of reminded me of that a little bit, but I've not really read anything quite like this, and I absolutely devoured it. It's one of my favourites of the month. This, Shoot Me in the Face on a Beautiful Day, and Reservoir Bitches. 3 faves of May. Definitely. So that's it, guys. That's my May wrap up. Have you read any of these books? Let me know. Have you any on your TBR? I'm filming this in the middle of June right now, and guys, all I'm saying is I am filming a June wrap up as soon as June is over, because I have read so far, I've got 3 5-stars for this month so far, and that is unheard of for me. And I also have a 4.5. I've had 1 DNF, but all of the books so far, except the DNF, have been amazing, and it's only the middle of June. So I need to do a wrap up for that. So yeah, stay tuned. Hopefully you'll see me before then. I have ordered some book mail, some very exciting book mail. So I'm probably going to do an unboxing for that, and I might do a review for the books, some of the books that I've read this month, like separate reviews, because they were that good. Like, I need to talk about them more. As usual, thank you so much for watching. If you stuck to the end, I know this one's going to be a long video. I will be doing some shorter videos as well, so don't worry. Let me know what you thought of my wrap up. Let me know if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. What videos do you want from me? Definitely let me know, and I will see you next time. Bye.